Are those caffeine pills? At first, they're so exciting. And then it gets even more exciting, but after that, it gets so scary. And in the end, you ruin your girl group's shot at a recording contract.
What?
Watching Saved by the Bell growing up, I always thought it was interesting that they never really talk about Mario Lopez or Slater being Mexican. So as a Latina watching this, it was so refreshing to see the both of you sort of take the lead in Saved by the Bell. It was so cool. But obviously, you know, you guys play Daisy and Aisha, low-income students, transfer to Bayside High School, school full of rich kids. How did the both of you balance, you know, this really serious topic, multiple serious topics, like with humor as well? Alycia, why don't you start?
It's an honor, you know, to be on this show that has such notoriety all over the world and has had such a special place in people's hearts, and then have us two Latinas spearhead it. And I think one of the best parts of our show is that we're both from the same culture, but our own distinct human beings. We're these Latina women with our own separate interests and goals and passions. And I think it really touches upon the fact that the Latinx community is not a monolith, and we have our own views, and we hope that we empower people within our own community. But as actors and performers, it's been so fun just exploring the juxtaposition between having these very serious conversations that need to be had and really reflect the world we live in today, in addition to these moments that are wacky and unconventional. I think it's one of the best parts of our show. I think it disarms people and hopefully shows people that no matter where you come from or where you look like, these are things that you can care about, and conversations about equity and representation and diversity are things that you should be discussing in your household. So it's awesome.
Yes.
Oh,
I know we both started stopping at the same.
Thank you.
Yeah, girl.
Yes, I second that. No, I seriously second that. I mean, I grew up, you know, not seeing a lot of representation on TV, and I was always told that I can do anything and be anything. But I think as a young Latina, it's always helpful in a way to see someone that looks like you, that speaks like you, that has the same background as you, because, you know, there's times where you may get down on yourself because that's a real thing, but to be able to see someone being represented in a certain light, in a certain way, in a certain form is so crucial to someone's upbringing and mindset and the way they take information about themselves and how they feel about themselves. So I love the fact that you not only have one Latina, but you have two Latinas, and two very different Latinas, but also very similar in ways. And I get to rock some curls, and you know, you see, it's good. They did a good job. I'm proud of you, Saved by the Bell.
I know they really did. Honestly, it was so dope watching the both of you. And you know, I'm not just going to reiterate everything you guys just said, but you know, Alycia, you mentioned the wacky and the unconventional. That's what we loved about Saved by the Bell. A lot of this stuff. I remember watching in the show Saturday morning, eating cereal. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. What was it like for the both of you? Because what's cool is that in this reimagining of the show, we still get those wacky, unconventional moments. So what was it like for the both of you to sort of be the only rational people at Bayside High School? Haskiri, why don't you take this one?
I feel like I'm always rational almost in my outside life or hopefully I hope I am rational. But being able to see that rationality, I think plays very well, because then you really see the difference between the Douglas kids and the Bayside kids and what separates them and how different they are in their thought process. And you kind of get to see that play off on how each character kind of rubs off on each other. You know, I get a lot of Lexi and a lot of Max kind of way of doing things. It's like not being able to take charge and not being able to enter a room and feel like I'm taking up too much space, because that's how what they do. And I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna do that same thing. Right. And then on the other side, I feel like for their characters, it's like, oh wow, you know, Daisy is passionate and she sees things differently and she has a voice not only for herself but for everyone surrounding her. Maybe I need to take a step back and see that for myself and kind of take that on as a trait, as a characteristic. So
we get to see that too, because your character breaks the fourth wall, which I think is really awesome that they do through Daisy's eyes. Saved by the Bell is one of the best shows to come out of the 90s. I love the 90s. I'm rocking Tommy.
Yes.
What is your favorite 90s trend?
I always say high-waisted jeans. High-waist, crop tops. I own a lot of crop tops. I don't think I own a regular size t-shirt. I need to go shopping.
That's actually a fact.
Yeah, right? Every day on set, did I not have a crop?
Anything, but you look phenomenal in all your crop tops, so keep wearing your crop top. Specifically for me, I am in love with the 90s culture, but I think something really cool about our new show is that I, as Aisha, wear a lot of 90s fashion, more reminiscent of the 90s hip hop culture, which we didn't really see in the original Saved by the Bell. So you'll see Aisha wearing like really big, similar to like TLC overalls and door knockers. So she definitely honors the 90s in her fashion in this new, cool, reinvented way.
Can we talk?
Did you just sit backwards in a chair? Wow, never seen anyone do that in real life.
I am so stoked to talk to you guys. My first question is for you, Belmont, because you play Jesse's son. But you're sort of like the Slater in this show. So I was curious if you got a chance to sit down with Mario Lopez or Elizabeth Berkley and talk to them about your character and what you wanted to bring to Jamie.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, well, I met Elizabeth during the audition process. And then when we were shooting the pilot in that first week, I had wrapped kind of around the middle of the day, and Elizabeth was on set just as a producer. And we were sitting in Video Village where there was everybody watching the monitors. And then it was somehow hours later, and we were just two people sitting in chairs in this empty space, having this wonderful conversation, talking about how the dynamic is in the family and the relationship between the two of them. And yes, Jamie and Mario have some similarities as well. So I got to dive into those similarities with him, and just meeting both of those original cast members and working with them has been an absolute blessing. It is a very cool experience.
What from Mario Slater did you want to bring in Jamie specifically?
Well, there's like this competitive jockey sports aspect to Slater that Jamie totally has. The only difference is Slater is genuinely athletic and Jamie is clueless.
And Dexter, you actually got to shoot with Mario solo. I got to see in a couple of episodes. So tell me what that was like. And do you have any fun stories from set shooting with him specifically that you can share?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you know, when I got the role and I found out that the majority of my scenes were going to be with him in the pilot, it definitely just brought me a little ounce of nervousness, if I'm being 100% transparent with you, but excitement as well. And then, of course, meeting Mario and chatting with him, and he gives you that smile and then brings you in for that handshake and hug. It makes everything go much more easy and allows you the opportunity and the space to be able to create something really, really beautiful and special. You know, Mario and I have so many mutual interests, from dance, from being pop culture nerds of the 80s and the 90s. And so, you know, we were always dancing around on the set and trailers and shooting Instagram videos. And his daughter is very big on TikTok. And so whenever she was around, we would be making up some TikTok dances and stuff like that. So Mario and Elizabeth both, every single OG that we brought back really made it a point to just so into us and allowed us know that, you know, hey, we know we were the first, but you guys are the now, and we appreciate you and we support you. And so having that really was really fantastic.
That's a really nice sentiment, especially because your character, Devante, I hope I'm saying it right, because it was funny.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how you pronounce my name in the show.
Yeah.
Whoever's watching this and you watch the show, that'll make sense. Yeah. But I wanted to ask the both of you, did you go back and watch, you know, the original? And it's kind of fun to poke fun at sort of the corniness and the cheapness from that show. So what was easy for you guys to naturally, you know, poke fun at this time around from the original?
It is fun. Tracy Wakefield, our showrunner, did such a phenomenal job of towing that line between being self-aware about the corniness of the original show and then still honoring the beautiful aspects of the original that everybody loves. Really just walking that tightrope. Tracy did a phenomenal job. And so it was very fun. The humor is a little different, just like the show is different because it's newer. But I'm excited about all the jokes.
Yeah, growing up such a big fan of the original show. You know, like I loved Zach, Kelly, Screech, Slater, Lisa, you know, Jesse, like I loved them growing up. But I do also understand that Saved by the Bell in the 90s does not work in 2020. So I think like Belmont said so beautifully, Tracy and our producer Franco, who was a part of the original series, found a really, really great way to combine the nuance and the nostalgic aspect of the original show with the groundedness and the reality of the world that we live in today. And I hope that it continues to be translated that way and understood that way.
What is your favorite thing to come out of the 90s? Favorite 90s trends?
Oh, the Jordan 1.
Yeah.
The Jordan 1, the high top Jordan 1. It could be the OG, all the different color alliterations. I'm a sneakerhead. I love sneakers, and so and now my accent just immediately comes out. I'm a sneakerhead. I just immediately get right back to my South Jersey steez. But yeah, the Jordan 1s is probably the best thing to come out of the 90s for myself.
For me, it's got to be the music. I love most of the music I listen to comes from the 90s. REM, Weezer, The Police, all that good stuff. But yeah, I'm a sneakerhead too.
You only know how Bayside works for kids like you.
Hot kids, privileged kids. Privileged kids.
Oh my God, Lexi, your character is just everything. Serving looks, best one-liners. She's transgender. We so rarely get that type of representation in the TV space, let alone the high school TV space. So first wanted to ask you, what was it like and how did you feel being able to bring Lexi to life with that in mind?
I mean, she is literally the most fun character I've probably ever played. Getting to wear 6-inch heels to algebra at 2 a.m. is an experience I never thought I would live through. She's so fun, and there's so much to her that I think is so interesting and entertaining to watch throughout her experience on the show and her arc as a human being. I think you see evolve throughout the season, and I think that's really topical for so many people in America right now, having this kind of reckoning where they're realizing their privileged bubble isn't everything. And I really love that about her and the other Bayside kids arc in the show.
What did it mean to you to be able to bring, a transgender character to life in sort of this space? Because we so rarely get that representation.
Yeah, it meant everything to me. I think when Tracy came to me about wanting to do the show, it wasn't originally planned for her to be transgender. But the more we talked about it, the more we saw an opportunity to have representation like this on screen, because so often trans representation, as we know, usually has to do with the trans struggle or puts trans people in a negative light, in a negative experience. So getting to tell a story and serve as a producer on a show where I had input on making sure it was authentic as possible was the greatest opportunity ever, because I think with me and Tracy coming together and our writers, we really told a story that isn't all about her gender and is so much more than just her gender, but does tackle that part of her, which I think is really, really important.
So incredible and so needed, and can't wait to see so many more. And you kill it. And I saw you're also, producer on the show. So congratulations for that. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Obviously, she's awesome. She's this cheerleader, most popular girl in school. We've seen this archetype before. So who are your main influences for Lexi? Like, did you go back and watch like Regina George clips? Like, who was your main influence?
My biggest influence for Lexi was the dreams that I had growing up as a young child, only wishing I could dress, talk, act half the way Lexi does. So that was my full-on sort of, I would say, inspiration for the character. But the more I did it, the more I found myself talking a lot like Catherine O'Hara in Schitt's Creek. I've literally said this in every interview. I guess what I'm saying here is I'm obsessed with Catherine O'Hara in Schitt's Creek. I wish I was her, and I'm sad that I'm not. But I just found myself like speaking in weird dialect in the same vein that Catherine does in that wonderful show. So yeah, I'd say a mixture of her and of just my dreams.
That's honestly iconic. Moira Rose is literally my favorite character. And I'm happy you said that, because I wanted to ask where you got Lexi's mannerisms and just the way she moves her hands. I wasn't sure if it was just how you are, but yeah, watching Schitt's Creek, like I noticed you sort of whisper your last line, when you're saying things, like you'll sort of lower your voice. So I wanted to know where all that came from. Did that come from Moira Rose?
Yeah, I mean, there were certain things that came from her, but also just me in my regular life. People that know me know that I'm an insane human being. Like I have moments where I can be a humble child that speaks normally, but I also have moments where I am a person from Mars and I'm not making any sense. But what I thought was actually really funny is throughout the show, I like wanted to find new ways of holding like my little handbags. And I saw that the girl who played Alexis on Schitt's Creek like had the same sort of idea of like finding new ways to do it. So she did like the pretend handbag thing, and my thing was holding a handbag with just one finger. And you'll see, I believe it's in episode 7 where I have this tiny purse that is literally big enough for an edamame pea, and like that's it, maybe like half of a lip gloss tube. And throughout the entire episode, I hold it with a single finger, so that'll be fun for people to
Wait, that is so
out.
amazing. That was like my dream answer, because I've done a lot of research on how Alexis took this and made it this.
Yeah.
So I just want to ask you one last question. What is the best thing to come out of the 90s for you?
The best thing to come out of the 90s for me is probably the fashion, the low-rise jean moment, the messy, dirty girl hair moment, and the spy slip. I think we need to bring it back. She deserves to be resurged. So those things I would say.
My dad's also coming. I don't care about your dad, Spencer. I just care about Zack and Kelly.
Hello, John. Should I call you John or Michael? I feel like you go by Michael, right?
I do go by Michael. Most people don't know that, but yeah, if you want to get if a safe is about to fall on my head, say Michael, because I'll move. If you call me John, I have to think for a minute. I was like, oh, I'm John. So
Michael, there's a safe coming. Amazing.
Ah!
Okay. I have waited a very long time to interview you. Your career is just so varied. You've played so many different characters. What was it like coming into the role of Principal Toddman and playing a high school principal?
It's not the first high school principal I've ever played. I think I've played about 94 of them. And it's one of the things I do a lot. Anything that works with a tie, that's what I do. I actually love this show. I've become very attached to this show. And I think part of it is that my colleagues are so young and talented. And I sort of am reminded of when I was a young actor and how I engaged with the work and how I was changed by it and things like that. And I've been doing it so long now that you do forget these things, and they're very important, and I have just been sort of enlivened by this job. Strange. I really have, because I'm one of the only, there's just a few adults in the cast, and it's really thrilling to work with that much collagen, frankly. So. Right.
Michael, you are hilarious. Yeah, no, it's true. Being around someone, that's doing something for the first time is very exciting. And
it is.
To hear you say that it livened it up, it sort of warms my heart to hear you say that. That's really cool. You've played so many principals, but obviously this is a reboot. So did you channel Mr. Belding at all or reference his performance for Toddman?
Well, yeah, we like to say that the show is a reimagining, not so much a reboot, because there are so many new characters. Really, Mario's character and Elizabeth Berkley's character are the only characters that are in the regular cast that are returning from the old show from the 90s. I'm a totally different person than Dennis Haskins played. I have a different name. I have a different, set of problems. I have a different personal life. So I didn't need to do research there. What was useful for me is to watch a couple of the old episodes and watch how Dennis Haskins negotiates his performance amongst the kids, because it's tricky. The sweet spot of the show is watching these kids be a group and friends and see what issues they have. And then this sort of this adult referee is walking around mostly to be pranked and to be, demeaned in some way, because he's the heavy, but also to sort of facilitate what they're doing and sort of pull comedy out of them. So that was very useful to watch Dennis do that. And he's superb.
At the same time, there's also a lot of you in this character. I know you've come from Broadway, Michael. You've written vocal arrangements for things you've been in. I don't want to give too much away, but obviously Principal Toddman does have like a musical tie in the show, or people will see once they watch it. So how did that come about? Was that your idea?
Well, I think, Tracy Wigfield, who's our creator on this show and our writer, she and I have a relationship. She and I did a show together called Great News on NBC a couple of years ago. And you know, so once she gets to know a person, me in particular, in this case, she can write toward me, you know, and so she knows that I'm musical, and she knows that I do X well or Y well, and she will go ahead and write it in because she likes to see me do it. And she also, unfortunately, knows what hurts for me. So she will demean me very often in the writing, me personally, Michael, so that, you know, she knows that I will be embarrassed by some of the things that I have to say. She knows how to get me. So it's been a pleasure.
I'm shocked to even hear you say that you've been embarrassed, because just some of the stuff that you've done is so. After one martini, I turn into Richard from The Breakup. You know,
I know.
How many times have you been asked to do that in real?
Oh my God, boy, you hit it on the nose. I tell you, Naz, I can't go into a grocery store without somebody, you know, pointing across the coffee aisle and saying, like, there's Gary on the kick drum there. You know what I mean? It happens all the time. It's every day almost. Yeah. Just that one scene, you know, you never know. You never know. You do a scene. I didn't even remember it. You know, years later, it's like, I have to deal with it every day. It's crazy.